Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. In today's video, I'm doing a French country shelf makeover. I've had this shelf in my stash for quite some time and I thought it was finally time to give it a refresh. As you can see, it has a lovely shape already, but I wanted to hide that little love heart and obviously give it a fresh coat of paint and add a little bit of something special. After cleaning this really well, my first step was to take out Paint Couture's 2-in-1 primer. I'm using grey. I find that that works a bit better when you're dealing with a darker wood stain. You tend to get coverage a bit quicker if you are then going to go over the top of it with a light paint colour. Now, this shelf also had those little wooden caps to hide where the screws will go in, so I've taken those out. I really like how the caps will hide the screws. It'll make it look a lot more tidy, but I'm going to paint those separate from the main shelf unit there. So I'm going to lay down one coat of this grey primer. I'm going to let that dry for about an hour and then I'll come in with a second coat and give that a few hours to dry. So this primer is going to help my paint stick and stay there, but it is also going to block that orangey red stain from coming through my beautiful white paint that I'm going to be adding a little bit later. While my 2 coats of primer were drying, I took out Redesign's Salon Parisian Charm Mould. I've used this on a few other projects, and I'm also going to be using Paint Couture's Rapid Casting Resin. I'm going to pour out equal parts step 1 and step 2. For this particular design, it took about 40 mils of resin, so I'm doing 20 mils of each, adding them together in a silicone cup, and then I am going to stir it really well for about 30 to 40 seconds. I'm then going to carefully pour that resin into my mold, and then this only takes about 10 to 12 minutes to set. Rapid casting resin also comes in white, but this is the color that I have on hand, so that's what we're using today. Once my resin is set, I'm going to bend and flex the mold to help it release the resin casting, and then I will carefully pull that out, and as you can see, the details are beautiful in this mold and the resin's done a great job. So as you can see, I'm envisioning that this is going to go down the bottom to cover that dated love heart design, but I need to trim my casting first, so I have my craft knife there and I'm just going to be trimming off some of the top section. That's actually a floral design, so I'm just cutting off some of the top parts of the petals and then breaking that off. And then once I'd sat that there, I decided I also wanted to take some off the bottom as well, so it will sort of match the top shape a little bit better. So just repeating the same process, making little cuts and then peeling the excess off. I'm going to be using Gorilla Super Glue on the back of my resin casting to adhere it to my project. I'm being quite generous with that glue. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to sit on the love heart, which parts are going to have good contact, so I'm just going to cover the whole back. It doesn't matter, this will dry clear, it will be fine, you won't really see it on the back. And then I'm going to position it over the love heart there, and I'm just using that little indent there in the center to line it up and center it. I'm going to apply some pressure and let it dry completely. Next, I'm going to use Paint Couture's Buttercream chalk paint. I've stirred it up really well, and now I am applying that lovely chalk paint with a synthetic bristle brush. You definitely want to go with a synthetic brush because the ends of the bristles are split, so you get a finer application. And I am making sure that I am going in and smoothing out any strokes that I make where I've had to change direction to get into a tricky spot. It is going to take 3 coats for me to get the coverage I want. Obviously, we do have that darker primer under there and we're using a very light color. And obviously, I'm going to go over the top of the casting down the bottom as well. When my paint was dry, I took out IOD's Flora Parisian Transfer. I have not used this one before, so I'm excited to get this one out. I'm just going to take the first 2 pages of the transfer to begin with. I'm loving the text there, and obviously I'm adoring those beautiful pastel roses. So I'm going to have a little look at how that's going to lay out. I did decide to cut out the floral elements from the center part. I really want to have the 2 roses either side of the text be the main focus focus. I do end up adding some other elements on the ends a little bit later, but I had to get this down first to really work out exactly how I wanted my design to go. I'm separating the text from the roses as well because I am going to end up trimming off some of the excess pieces from the bottom there so that the roses can sit and look like they're coming up from that bottom shelf. So I do cut off quite a few of these designs, but I can save them to use in other projects, and I just think it will work a little bit better. It just felt a little bit too crowded and a little bit too tricky to piece together considering the size and shape of my project. So I've got a basic idea of my layout here and how I want it to go. I'm going to peel off that first text piece on the left there, and I am using the center of my project as a guide as to how to position my transfer, and I am going to have to work in sections here. This shelf has little slats, wooden slats that have indents. So I'm going to work in sections. I'm going to work on some of the flat sections first. And then I'm going to have to work that transfer into the grooves. So I'm not going over the top of the whole design to start off with like I usually do to get everything to be adhered down. I'm going to work in sections and only add pressure to those areas once the grooves are transferred down. I hope that makes sense. So as you can see here, I'm working that transfer into the groove, really pressing it down, and then I'm applying the pressure and rubbing and burnishing the rest of the design. So I definitely had to take my time with this and think about it and think about how those letters were going to sit in the grooves. So if you're going to do this, I definitely recommend that you do take your time and just work in sections. Once I had the left part of the text done, I lined up the right-hand side of the text, and as you can see, I'm working it into the groove to start off with to bring those two pieces of text together. And I apologize for my head cutting in and out of the frame there. I did have to just double check that I had everything lined up as best I could. I did get a few cracks here and there, especially on the florals, but overall I think it all still came together quite nicely. So I'm working on the florals on the left here, and again, I'm working in sections, pushing the sections of the floral design into the grooves and then moving on. And again, if you rush this and you just try and get everything down at once, you are more likely to get really big cracks and to have your image be a bit disjointed. So take your time. And as I said, I do end up getting some cracks and imperfections here, which was a bit disappointing, but it can't be helped. You don't really know exactly how a transfer is going to react to going over those different levels. So as you can see, I'm taking out French Rose Mineral Paint by Paint Couture, and I'm just going to dab some of this beautiful lighter pink on the rose where I've got a bit more of an obvious crack or bit of the design that sort of slipped and didn't exactly work out the way I wanted. So I'm adding this pink almost like it's sort of like a highlight, a bit of a lighter section on the florals, and it's also going to help hide that crack a little bit better, make it less obvious. I've got some cracks down in the leaves in the bottom right hand corner, but I don't mind that. Maybe a bug has had a bit of a chew on the leaves. I think it's a bit more natural looking in that section. Here I'm just using that pink to disguise it just a little bit more. You could probably have done a bit of distressing, but I didn't want to do any distressing on this piece, but sometimes you can hide imperfections like this doing that, or you can use a glaze or a wax, but I didn't plan on doing any antiquing with this. I'm then going to take out Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in satin and seal my entire project. Once I got towards the end of the process of sealing, I felt like it didn't feel quite as balanced and as finished as I wanted. So you will see shortly that I end up taking out some more of the transfers from that same transfer pack to add to the left and right hand sides of my florals, just to try and finish it off a bit. So sometimes that happens. You don't know that you need to go in a different direction with a project until you're almost finished it. So my little knob things there, I am going to put those back into position though, so I don't end up losing them, and I have painted them and sealed them. So once I've got those in, as I said, I took out some more transfers from that same pack, and I'm going to position them on the left and right hand side, and repeating those same steps as before. Anywhere that I have a groove, I'm making sure that I am working that in first, and then doing the rest of the transferring and burnishing once those bits are in place. I felt like adding the designs on the left and right hand side of this piece really did finish it off. They were quite delicate florals. I didn't feel like they overpowered the roses that were already there, and I didn't feel like they detracted from the text. So I feel like adding these definitely finished the piece off. And of course I will add a satin clear coat over the top of these to seal it all in as well. Today's project was a pretty straightforward one, but I definitely had a lot of fun working on something a little bit bigger, tackling a project that I had been putting off and getting to use this beautiful IOD transfer. I can't believe I haven't used it until now. It's definitely a new favorite. Let me know what you think of today's project in the comments. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and share it out. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can find most of the products used today on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.